Hey guys, I hope you're keeping well. In this video, we're going to be looking at, do visions mean anything when it comes to precognition? Precognition meaning the ability to preconceive information and events before they happen to take place. And in order to do that, I'm going to be asking AI a little bit of questioning because I myself have been receiving clairaudient visions of certain aspects and elements of reality that have really got me scratching my head and wondering more and more about the true nature and reality of being able to receive visions, whether of the past or whether of prophecy. Because I myself, since I'd gone across this whole experience, have been receiving visions for over the last 2 years. And the visions I've received this year have been particularly interesting, particularly because I'd seen Jesus on a cross and I'd seen multiple different visions on different occasions of Jesus on being crucified, and sometimes in so much detail to the point of seeing other people there with him, grieving him for him, who seemed like the 12 disciples or apostles. I've also had visions of seeing in the tabernacle of feasts, and I've had visions of a global ice age. So, and then I've had visions of the future that have actually come to happen and have taken place, more so relating to my personal life, my personal day-to-day life. So I've been left scratching my head, wondering about the true nature of being able to see visions. And whenever I see someone happen to speak about this publicly, if I get the chance to question them, I do, in order to find out what sort of visions people have been having and have they been able to confirm seeing what they've seen in reality. And I'll get to what I mean by that a little bit later. So the first one we have is God Our Guardian. Please do me a favor and share with me anything you'd like to regarding visions. If you would like to join this podcast, what you can go ahead and do is you can, let me just do this. If you'd like to join this podcast as a talk show guest, you can by just copying this over here, StreamYard. Because I want to get to the bottom of this. I would like to interview people who have visions, who have clairaudient and precognitive capability in order to really try and understand how rooted in reality all of this happens to be. Because the first question you have to be asking yourself is, why are people receiving visions? You know, a psychiatrist would normally just write them off as a visual hallucination, but we can't do that. We can't really afford to write off every single vision as a visual hallucination, because the real question is, why does the human body even have the ability to go ahead and do that? Why do we have the ability to receive and see visions? Is it just all for visual hallucinations, or is there any truth to it? Because there definitely seems to be truth to it when we look at something like the Bible, which is written by people who used to have visions and felt as though that they were called in order to go ahead and start writing chapters and verses of this holy book, which it is we have today, which is written over the course of 2,500 years by multiple different authors who carried on quite a prophetic narrative as time has progressed going forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ask AI a little bit more about visions to see what it has to say. So AI, Changi, do me a favor. I would like to know, throughout the Bible, how many books were written by people who had claimed to have visions? Clairaudient.
It's difficult to give a specific number as it depends on how one defines vision and claim. The following books of the Bible are written by prophets or biblical figures who have described having visions from God or a divine being. Genesis is partially attributed to Moses. Exodus is attributed to Moses. Isaiah was written by the prophet. Jeremiah was written by the prophet. Jeremiah, Daniel was written by the prophet. Daniel, Ezekiel was written by the prophet Ezekiel. Joel was written by the prophet Joel. Zechariah was written by the prophet Zechariah.
And were these prophets able to, did they claim to have visions, actual visions given to them by God?
Yes, the prophets who wrote the books of the Bible that I mentioned claim to have had visions or revelations from God. For example, Isaiah describes seeing a vision of the Lord seated on a throne in the temple, Isaiah 6:1-8. And Jeremiah describes having a vision of the Lord's voice calling him to be a prophet and speaking to him directly, Jeremiah 1:4-10. Similarly, Ezekiel describes having a series of visions and dreams involving angels, chariots, and other strange creatures, Ezekiel 1.
Interesting. So these prophetic books are compromised by people who are having prophetic dreams as well as visions in their waking states. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. The prophetic books in the Bible are written by prophets or figures who received visions, dreams, or direct communication from God. These visions and dreams were often recorded in the form of writing, and these writings form the basis for the prophetic books in the Bible. These books are considered to be important sources of spiritual wisdom and guidance for believers, and they provide insights into the nature of God and the relationship between the divine and human.
Excellent. And so Moses was one of these people who had visions which helped contribute towards him writing the first 5 books of the Bible. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. According to the biblical account, Moses is believed to have been the author of the first 5 books of the Bible, known as the Pentateuch or the Torah, which includes Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. During his lifetime, Moses is described as receiving several visions and direct communications from God, which helped him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt and write down the laws and teachings that form the foundation of the Jewish faith.
And what's mind blowing about this is that he is actually responsible for the exodus of taking Jewish slaves from Egypt into the Holy Land. Is that correct? Historically speaking?
Yes, that is correct. Historically, Moses is considered to be the leader of the Israelites who left Egypt and led them out of slavery. According to the biblical account, Moses received a vision of God, who commanded him to go to the Pharaoh and demand the release of the Israelites from slavery. Through a series of miraculous events, Moses was able to convince the Pharaoh to release the Israelites, and he then led them out of Egypt and into the Promised Land, which is now modern-day Israel. This event is known as the Exodus and is a significant part of Jewish and Christian faith.
So what's unbelievable about this story is you're talking about a man who's having prophetic visions, who's going ahead and he's actually leading people out of slavery, which seems like an impossible task unto itself, but that's actually what happened. And historically speaking, he is the reason that the Israelites were led out of Egypt during that grand exodus, which is quite unbelievable because he was quite a holy man and he lived quite supernatural life. And I believe that he had received visions of Genesis that helped him put together the book of Genesis. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. According to the biblical account, Moses is believed to have received the book of Genesis, as well as the other books of the Pentateuch, through direct communication from God. The account of the creation, the fall of humanity, and God's promises to Abraham and his descendants are all said to have been revealed to Moses during his vision on Mount Sinai. These visions were then recorded in written form, and the resulting texts form the basis for the first 5 books of the Old Testament.
Unbelievable. Thank you. I'll speak to you just now. Thank you very much. That's quite conclusive. So let's go through some comments over here for a second. I've had visions in the past of different potential future events, some that have taken place. The ones I've experienced were opportunities to change my immediate timeline or to avoid a timeline. So I've also actually experienced that. I'd like to go ahead and say that potentialities taking place and having visions of them. And then having visions of stuff that actually takes place. Tara Bespen says Islam says Muhammad was the last prophet and nobody can have visions or prophesize. But you know that according to Islam, Jesus is the savior of the Arab, the Muslim people. Most people actually don't know that, but if you actually look into Islam, I want to let's just ask AI because most people don't actually know this. Most people don't know that Jesus is actually found within the Quran. Is it true that Jesus is found in the Quran and is told to be the Messiah and Savior of the Muslim people against the Al Dajjal?
Yes, the Quran acknowledges and reveres Jesus as a major prophet and the Messiah, or Masih in Arabic. The Quran mentions Jesus a number of times throughout the text, and it does not deny that he was born of the Virgin Mary through a miraculous conception, performed miracles with the permission of God, and rose to heaven after being made to appear dead. The Quran teaches that Jesus will return at the end of time to defeat the Dajjal, or the Antichrist, and fight against evil and injustice. The Quran also states that
Wow.
Jesus will be a sign for the day of judgment.
Can you believe that? Can you believe that the Quran says that Jesus will come back during the end of times and will be responsible for judgments? Do most Muslim people know this? Because it's actually written in the Quran, which is the craziest part of it all. He's acknowledged as the Messiah, and his return and second coming is acknowledged as well. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. According to Islamic belief, Jesus will return near the end of time to restore justice and fight against evil. This belief is based on prophecy in the Quran, which states that Jesus was given divine revelation and that he was exalted to a high position by God. Most Muslims do believe in the second coming of Jesus, and it is a significant tenet of their faith. However, there is some debate and interpretation within Islam regarding the exact details and timing of his return.
Excellent. But it's safe to say that it prophesies the return of Jesus. Thank you very much. How crazy is that? Most people don't know that. How crazy is that? That the Quran actually prophesies the return of Jesus. That's pretty crazy, eh? Let's go into some more comments. I experience clairsentience and clairvoyance quite often. Clairsentience is always present. I can navigate reality in the highest timeline-based energetic frequency and my sphere of influence, and the external inputs that I pick up within my field. From what I know, the only thing Islam Muslims deny about Christ is that he was God incarnate. They don't deny him being the Son of God. Still really interesting when you actually think about it that most people don't actually realize that the Quran believes in Jesus. It's being returning, just as he said. So it's just quite a mind-blowing thing. Okay, anyway, back to visions and prophecies, because obviously the Quran is also a compromisation of different prophets and visions and prophecies. So is the Holy Bible. And we know today that people have these abilities. We're just listening to God Heart Guardian, what he's having to say over here about his ability to actually preconceive potential outcomes and events by having clairaudient visions of things that actually happen. Uh, I believe I've been seeing certain stuff in the past, and I wonder how that's possible. Certain visions of the past of Jesus Christ crucifixion. I've seen multiple visions of that. Godheart Guardian, can you confirm that you've managed to see anything along those lines? Because if you have, then that is quite interesting. I'm trying to study into the nature and origin of visions. It's a little bit difficult because you can imagine how much research there is out there, but this is the beginning of my research adventure to actually find out what is the story with visions? What is the story with prophetic abilities that people may have? Because when we look at the Holy Bible, it is a compromisation of 2,500 prophetic visions of what would happen, and 2,000 of those predictions have come true. So it's a clear evidence and testament to show that people have visions, people have had visions, and not only have they had visions of the future, but those visions of the future have accurately come to pass. And it's so heavily imbued with history that it's so hard to ignore. You can't really ignore the Holy Bible. If you want to ignore the Holy Bible, then you want to ignore huge proportions of Earth's history that have actually taken place here. Massive amounts of historicity is just ultimately ignored if you're willing to go ahead and ignore the Holy Bible, because it is a story of 30% prophecy and 30% history. Even more history than that, probably. This is actually fun. But the point that I'm making is that the Bible is so heavily rooted in its history that you can't ignore it. You can't just say, oh, it's some whimsical little magical book that speaks about fairies and afterlife and this and that. You can't take it out of context like that. You actually have to look at it in its full context. And its full context is being able to see that it has history connected to it. We know, historically speaking, that the Israelite people were enslaved in Egypt once, and that man by the name of Moses actually brought them out of their slavery. That's a historical fact. So, how do you ignore a historical fact, an outcome of events that are heavily tied towards some sort of prophetic book that actually came about thanks to that Exodus in Egypt? The first 5 books of the Holy Bible were written in the desert thanks to Moses. Okay, starting from Genesis to Exodus to Leviticus to Deuteronomy and Numbers and Judges. I can't actually remember it. But the point is, you can't actually go ahead and ignore that book. I used to have images of the nails being driven through Christ's hands and feet. I never decided it. I never decoded it. That is quite interesting. So, I find it interesting that people can actually get visions. People can see things. They can dream things before they happen, and they can see things before they happen. So the question is, how is this possible? Because we can't ignore this. If you want to ignore this, then you want to ignore history. If you want to ignore history, you want to ignore religion. No matter what your disposition towards religion is, ultimately, it plays a huge part in what's taken place and happened here on earth. And most of it is attributed and tied towards our history. You can't ignore it. There's so many historical events, because remember, the Israelites became slaves twice. They became slaves once in Egypt and twice in Babylon. And both of those were prophesied before it had even occurred or taken place. And what that book is a genealogical historical timeline, which is imbued with miracles, stories of miracles and prophecies, tons and tons of prophecies of people who have been called spiritually to get involved within writing certain chapters and books and speaking on behalf of God, the eternal spirit, in terms of deciding and saying what will take place here on earth in the future. So I'm getting visions now, and I want to get more visions, and I want to be able to make sense of them, because sometimes I have visions of stuff before it happens. And I ask myself the question, how is that possible? If my consciousness is completely and totally local towards my body, how is it possible that I'm able to see something beyond this time and space that I currently occupy, that has given me a vision of something that happens before it happens? I usually ask people this question: have you ever dreamt something before it happens? A lot of people answer yes, and I asked them, well, if that is the case, then how is that possible? How is it possible that your consciousness is exploring realms to the point that you're seeing stuff beyond the time and space which you occupy, allowing you to therefore see into the future? These gifts exist. People have them. Some people more than others. Does this relate to our pineal gland? Let's ask AI, because this is where it starts getting a little bit tricky. in order to find out what part of the brain and function of the body actually allows people to be able to do this. Can we scan and observe this? God, and leaving another good comment saying, honestly think we're capable of remarkable and magical things. We are the most advanced divine technology that exists in creation. I believe the original language was telepathy. We have the potential to be very powerful as long as we're benevolent and righteous. This is why the reign of the dark hearts try to deplete our potential at every corner: poison, food, water, air, entertainment, corrupted knowledge, and matrix control system as a whole. And so, yeah, we are stuck in a matrix that leads us to believing that there's nothing magical about reality. But the fact that reality exists alone in itself is extremely magical. The fact that you exist is magical. It's miraculous. The fact that existence exists is magical and miraculous because everything you can possibly imagine in existence has come from nothing. Before there was anything, there had to have been nothing. And so the Word was with God in the beginning, and then that Word gave birth to everything in creation. So the fact that we exist and the fact that existence exists and it's so complicated and it's so interconnected is completely and totally miraculous. I noticed that inventions are made by multiple people and way in different places. I had an idea for a wind turbine, and 2 months later, a man in China made what I envisioned. And there's a lot of research studies like that, Tara, which study the collective unconscious mind of humans here on Earth and have found remarkable findings throughout their studies. There's an experiment which many of you may know. It's the 100 monkey experiment, where there was an island off the coastland of China, approximately, I don't know how many 100 kilometers away, but too far for a monkey to swim to the mainland. And what they taught these monkeys on this island was to wash these potatoes. And as soon as the monkeys started learning to wash the potatoes on the island, the monkeys on the mainland started learning how to wash potatoes. So was it a coincidence? Because there's many studies like this which have the same sort of findings, that there's some sort of collective unconscious field that seems to be interconnecting all of us. Tara, indeed, if you decide not to create those downloads, you get someone else will get the ideas. Fascinating stuff. So decide to do it so that nobody goes and picks your mind somewhere out there in the collective unconscious mind of humanity here on Earth. I was actually just thinking about how to reinvent the wind turbine. What was your design like? So here we go. Thank you very much, Tara, for actually reminding me of these experiments, reminding me of these findings that show that there is some sort of unconscious field. I call it the unified field of reality that seems to connect us all and can be studied and observed. And there's many experiments with this. Marina, how are you doing? Very good to have you here. I'm very grateful for you being able to tune in, as well as the rest of you guys being able to go ahead and tune in and be with me here during this live stream. We're asking some fundamental questions. Do visions mean anything when it comes to precognition? If so, do you receive visions? Have you received visions? Have you ever received a vision of something before it's happened? Have you ever received a vision of instrumental information that was quite necessary towards something you were focusing on? If you have, please go ahead and share that into the comment section. I would greatly appreciate that. Look at a comment here from Tara. Vertical axis of wind turbine with folding blades like a paddle wheel steamship. That sounds pretty awesome, Tara. And Marina says, yes. If so, Marina, please go ahead and share that with us in the comments section. I'd greatly appreciate that. So I'm just thinking of more questions to ask this AI. Please don't forget to look into methylene blue. Thank you very much for reminding me. I'm actually going to go ahead and try to write that down somewhere. Methylene blue. Before I do that, I would like to know. Please, can you tell me about the 100 monkey experiment as well as different experiments very similar to that seem to show or exhibit a unified field of mass collective consciousness that may be accessed by many beings, including us humans?
The 100 monkey experiment was a study conducted in the 1960s and 1970s on the island of Koshima, Japan, involving a group of wild female Japanese macaque monkeys. The experiment involved teaching a group of monkeys to wash sweet potatoes before eating them. Surprisingly, after a critical number of monkeys, around 100, had learned to do this, the behavior spread rapidly to other monkeys in the group, even though they had not been directly taught by the first group. The experiment suggested that knowledge or behavior can spread rapidly among a population through a form of mass collective consciousness.
Interesting. And are there other experiments similar to this idea that have been practiced on humans?
Yes, there have been several experiments on collective consciousness and mass behavior among humans. One example is the work of Robert Rosenthal, a psychologist who studied the Pygmalion effect, which is the phenomenon where expectations can influence outcomes. Rosenthal found that when teachers were led to expect certain students to perform well, those students actually performed better than they had in the past. Another example is the work of Rupert Sheldrake, a biologist and writer who has proposed the theory of morphic resonance, which suggests that memories and habits can be passed along through a kind of collective field or field of consciousness.
Interesting. Is there any studies on the morphogenetic field of humans?
Yes, there have been studies on the morphogenetic field in humans, although the concept and its validity are still debated. Rupert Sheldrake's theory of morphic resonance posits that the morphogenetic field is a field of energy or information that guides the development and behavior of living organisms. However, his ideas have not been widely accepted by the scientific community and are considered to be largely speculative and lacking empirical evidence.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, there you have it, folks. We are seeing that there are many experiments that look into this. Too sensitive to share, but very precise. Knowing, I wish you really could share that with me because it would help me get to the bottom of these questions I'm asking myself of visions I happen to be getting. I also would like to do a little experiment with you guys here in approximately 30 seconds. But let's just do a little experiment to see if we can actually stimulate our ability to see visions. I believe these visions are given to us by our third eye, otherwise known as our pineal gland. And, or I believe that's a biological component used to receive these visions. Awesome, Tara. I had a lot of birds in the area, created toroidal field turbine, a spear of sorts. And is there a connection between Rupert Sheldrake and Rudolf Steiner? I'm not too sure about that. You'd have to look into that. Okay, so let's just do a little experiment over here. I've been practicing with giving people visions. Well, not giving, we are opening up people's susceptibility towards visions and receiving information, potentially divine, instrumental information with regards to what it is that's being seen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you guys to close your eyes. Would be nice to have a cigarette, but I don't have any fire. I don't know. And when you close your eyes, you're going to close them for long enough in order for you to receive visual imagery. I'm not sure what visual imagery you're going to receive, to be quite honest with you, but this is an experiment nonetheless. And then, if you're comfortable enough, please do me a favor and go ahead and share that into the comments section to see. We're going to start off with just a little bit of a breathing exercise to relax ourselves. And as we are able to relax ourselves, you're going to go ahead and close your eyes, and then I will talk you through it. And as I talk you through it, you will receive whatever vision you're meant to. If you've never received visions before, this may be a great time to experiment in trying to see if it is possible for you to do that. It's definitely possible, as I've done this with a few people now and would like to go ahead and try it openly on this platform. So, take a couple seconds just to breathe and just relax. And as you relax now, you're going to close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, you're going to give yourself time to receive any vision that may come to you. Now, excellent. So, if anyone has received a vision, please let me know from that little experiment. And if you have, not only tell me yes, please explain to me what it is that you happen to have seen in that short period of time. I think it's very important to share this knowledge, to share these experiments and information, and to show that we do have this sort of divine connectivity. So, I'll give you a little bit of time to do that. Please go ahead and let me know if you've actually managed to see anything. If you've not managed to see anything, I'm more than patient enough to go ahead and try that again. A simple yes or no will suffice to let me know if this is actually going anywhere sooner rather than later. Says, did anyone happen to see any visions when I told you to do that? Or do you need to be in a better state of relaxation? Here we go, we got our first one here. Not sure if it's in my imagination, but I saw a mountain in the dusk with the building on top of it, and into the sky, smoke coming from that building. Interesting. Tara, we'll give it another try, don't worry, don't give up hope just yet. But we've just got our first vision over here. Someone says they're seeing a building on top of a mountain and smoke coming from that. I still find it interesting to know that people can actually get these visions if you just tell people to close their eyes and just wait to see what it is that they happen to see. This is how I do it. So, Tara, if you're not managing to see anything, don't feel too disheartened. I believe if you give it a little bit more time, you will be able to see stuff. And if you would like to experiment now, you can close your eyes while listening to me, preferably in a dark room, and then wait to see what imagery comes to mind and give it time for an image to formulate. And when you close your eyes, you'll look out into the empty space, which sounds weird, but trust me, you can actually do that. And you might see some light or some static energy, and give that enough time to formulate itself into an image. So that's a yes. I find it interesting that you can actually do that. That you can tell people to close their eyes, and all of a sudden they start receiving visual prompts of information. I find that interesting. Sometimes people have, just in speaking to them, tell me I'm having a vision of you or something. So let's try that again, okay? I believe this, yeah, there's some sort of unknown function within us. I believe us humans and our potentiality is very much undiscovered and unexplored. I believe there may be a lot more time. The weed should actually help, actually. I feel a little bit jealous for you saying that, but it should actually help you. So, Goddard Guardian, did you manage to get anything? So yeah, I find it interesting. I'm gonna have to do a lot more research, and I'm gonna actually have to interview people to actually do this sort of stuff. I'm actually gonna have to interview a lot more people about people with clairvoyance and prophetic abilities, which is what I've been wanting to do here. Haven't done an interview yet in quite a while, but I do plan to do them soon enough. Okay, let's go again. Goddard Guardian was sidetracked. So we're gonna try this again one more time. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to ask everyone to close their eyes and just breathe and relax. And you're going to give yourself time as your eyes are closed to have this light put together an image for you. I'm going to sit here and wait with you. I want you to imagine an energy hitting your forehead and then imagery formulating. Give it time. That vision may take time to formulate. So please, can the people doing this get relevant visions that relate to this conversation and topic to help give us more information, guidance, and understanding? I'm going to keep quiet now for 5 minutes. You guys keep quiet as well. Close your eyes and keep looking into that vision. Okay, there we go. Just did it again. So if you managed to see anything, please let me know in the comment section. And Marina, if you've happened to have an additional vision beyond the vision that you've just described, mountain, the dust of the building on top of it, and the sky and smoke coming from the building. And please do me a favor, go ahead and share that with us yet again to let us know. So, what do we have? We have any findings? Do we have anything we can report from? What do we have here today? Has anyone received a vision? And if you're in the business of wanting to receive visions, what I highly recommend you do is you meditate and you close your eyes and you watch. My mind was very clear. Just then, no vision this time. Okay, well, look, that was definitely worth trying. But if you would like to practice receiving a vision, I suggest meditating. And in your practice of meditating, just close your eyes and allow imagery to formulate. That's how I've been doing it, and that's how I've been seeing certain visions. To the point where every time I close my eyes, I'll see visions. Anyway, I just thought it was an interesting conversational topic, something interesting to explore. I believe we have these abilities. I believe these abilities have been recorded throughout history and throughout time. In some cases, like the Holy Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and many other different instances of people with these certain capabilities. Is junk DNA actually junk? What makes it junk? I believe that when it comes to humanity, we have underdeveloped and unknown hidden abilities that we're able to develop as time progresses and goes on, particularly our intuitive and psychic capability. I believe that in the practice of meditating and learning to still your mind and allowing yourself to receive visual imagery, you are further developing your ability to go ahead and do this. I think it's important for anyone who wants to feel a little bit more than human. Marina, just colors radiating out in different colors, followed by dark on the left, washing up against lighter shades on the right. Now, it's interesting that you've just gone ahead and said this because this is what I see all the time. When I close my eyes, I see colors and static frequency and energy and a little bit of movement and a little bit of darkness and this and that. And then sometimes that formulates into an actual image. So I reckon that, you should definitely practice doing this. And as you do practice doing this, you'll be able to see more and more and more of stuff like this. I believe it was Jesus that said, if thine eye was single, then the whole entire body will be full of light. What does that mean? Because we have these light bodies, we are these beings of light. And apparently, having a single eye, maybe the eyes and our internal vision, having that, our external and internal vision, having it as one eye, seems to go ahead and fill up our body with light, according to these mysterious holy scriptures. But I'm not sure. Minor visions, very imaginative, probably always see colors when I close my eyes. And so do I. And the question I ask myself is, what are those colors exactly? What is it that we're actually happening to be seeing? What function in our body even allows us to be able to see that? Tara Spence says, was seeing a dome with a black marble top. Then it was interrupted. That's very interesting. So, what I'd like for you guys to do is practice doing this. And I believe as you practice doing this, you'll get better at doing this. And not only will you get better at doing this, but you'll come back to me with a lot more reports of things it is that you happen to see. And sometimes I believe the visions that you may have conjured up in your mind may be indicative of your future or future events. I think that's interesting. I think that's a cool little experiment that we've done. Didn't really get the results that I would have liked, but I think these are good results nonetheless. And I think that as time progresses, I'll be able to go ahead and do this again. Hopefully, with you guys, we can go ahead and practice just lying down in the dark and taking time to just see what comes to mind and comes through your third eye and your mental mind. What imagery happens to take place here? That's what I want to know. So that's where I'm going to leave this stream, guys. I think it was an interesting little video to actually explore this idea of visions and to explore this idea of prophetic capability, especially within regards to the context of the Bible, as well as a little experiment to show that we do have this certain eternal internal vision that allows us to be able to see light waves beyond the light spectrum. My question is, where are those lights coming from? What function in our body do we have to be able to perceive these things? If we're able to see light that exists beyond the visible light spectrum, is it our pineal gland that's allowing us to be able to see this? According to much research, that does happen to be the case. Much love, Godheart Guardians. So that's where we're going to leave this talk. I think it's something interesting to think about, to consider. Is this real prophetic vision capability, precognitive visions? If so, if they are real, what components within our body allows us to do this? Why are we able to do this? And how does this connect us to the future, the present, and the past? Most importantly. And I think that this is a very underdiscovered and unexplored topic. So I'm going to take some time to do a lot more research and hopefully find someone that I can actually interview who has a lot of visions. So if you're the sort of person that has a lot of visions, please do me a favor. Go ahead and comment in the comment section, and maybe we can go ahead and set up a little talk between yourself and I. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really do appreciate this. We're at 45 minutes now on this video. It has been an interesting video. Unfortunately, I cannot even answer the questions that I'm asking, at least not all of them. So for now, I'm just going to end the stream here, and I'll see you guys back. Sending you guys lots of love, and yeah, I hope you guys